met George and everyone to look at it. He said, "Holy moly, that's you." I said, "Yeah, I was better looking back then." But I have worked on the wells here. I appreciate nobody likes change. Now, I heard some people say they've been here a long time. How many people remember when you owned your own sewer system? Used to be a sewer plant set right up here. Okay. I was here when we took that sewer plant out. We have worked on the wells here, we've worked on the pumps here. Somewhere along the way, I started doing some educational work, and I am a licensed water operator in the state of Delaware. So if you want to talk about the water operations, I am qualified, I think, to answer those. My license number is 0001, first license ever issued in the state. I have as many endorsements as you can have in this state. If you'd like, I can pull a copy of my license up and show it. I'm a certified construction reviewer for the Department of Natural Resources. I'm an adjunct instructor, Delaware Tech, in the water, wastewater, environmental industry. Okay? So, we're going to talk about things, and like I said, I have no dog in the hunt. I don't care if you keep it or if you sell it. But I think reasonable people need to have an unbiased informational source so you can make a reasonable decision. Okay? One of the items, and I want to go through because Dan Barbados is not here, kind of address his letter, if that's okay with you all, because that's one of the letters you got in your packet. And in Dan's letter, as you go through it, or look at the preventive maintenance evaluation that's done up here, as we go through it, there are some problems that do exist. Your facility has problems in the treatment plant, in that you've got a lot of equipment that is getting older. Now, you just replaced some tanks, but there's a lot more to that treatment plant than just those few tanks. So we have some investments we're going to have to make. And in Dan's evaluation, it is understood the plant is aging, requires frequent maintenance. Some of the issues reported included but not listed or limited to solids and salt tanks interfering with softener operations. Iron issues in the wells, iron buildup in the bladder tanks, iron in the treated water, odor issues. Those are all things that are happening today, happen before you put the new filter tanks in, are going to happen after the new filter tanks are in. Okay? Like it or not, they're there. So those items have to be addressed at some point. There are some other problems, and John, one of the other things, so make full disclosure, there's Kathy. I did a 2-year contract with Artesian Water. Okay, so I was there for 2 years. But one of the other things John talked about was how you're presently getting rid of your backwash water. In other words, when we clean the filters, or when they clean the filters, the iron-laden water gets discharged, along with the byproducts of the sodium chloride, the salt that you injected to regenerate your beds. How you are presently doing that, he wouldn't say it's against the law. I'm going to say it's against the regulations. If you don't think so, you can go ask a few of the older municipalities like Frankfurt, Selbyville. They did the same thing until they got violated. I would suspect for you to resolve that, what's going to happen is you're going to have to take your backwash water, put it into a big tank someplace, let it settle, filter the fresh water back off the top of it, run it back to the head of your plant, take the remaining material and pump it off to one of those carrier companies that John talked about. He sent their iron to, and pay for that. That process of setting all that equipment up, the last estimates that I saw for a similar size plant, the estimates are about 5 years old, okay? They were well over $450,000. Plus, you've got to have the land. So I guess the question is, which one of you wants to give up your building lot so we can put the tank there? I mean, it's an issue that we've got to address. Or maybe we eliminate one of the roads out here where we can get around. What's that? You can eliminate the playground. I'm looking across the audience. I don't see a lot of seesaw people in here. The other thing you have to recognize, back in 1974, the federal government did something called creating the Environmental Protection Agency. And in '76, they set up the Safe Drinking Water Act, of which, the long story short is, that act set up standards across the country that have to be followed. Okay, now they give the state the primacy, the state health department to implement those. If the state doesn't implement them, the EPA has the right to come in and implement them. Under the Safe Drinking Water Act, there's portions of that regulation that says every 10 years, the Environmental Advisory Board in the federal government gets to review the items that are under control for safe drinking water. And they have two different styles of things they have. One is called the primaries. Those are the ones that supposedly will make you sick, fall over, die, hair fall out. And then you have the secondary standards. And the primary ones, a lot of you are aware of, bacteria. Can't have bacteria, right? That's the one on the primary list. And there's a whole list of things on the primary list that you probably don't even recognize. But under the Safe Drinking Water Act, every 10 years, that environmental board gets a chance to add to the items that will be regulated. Now, I'm just a young whippersnapper, but I have never seen the federal government ease up on regulations. And in fact, since I've been in the business, I have seen them tighten up and tighten up and tighten up. They used to measure things parts, parts per thousand. Technology of being able to check things in the laboratory got better, so now they went to parts per million. And we're now starting to check things in the parts per billions and parts per trillions. It's a fact of life. And if my lab can check for it, that means I, as a regulator, should regulate to it, right? There are things coming down the pike for regulations that you all are not going to be able to afford, I'm afraid. How many people remember the incident that happened in the town of Blades this summer, or last summer, right? Where they shut down the town water, had the truck water in because it was TCHE, TCPE, TCH, or THC. Yeah, it was one of those alphabet soups. Guess what? That's something that's not even on the primary standard, yet the EPA came and said it was important enough, we're going to implement it, and you all have got to do something. Would you care to guess, by the way, town of Blades water system, as far as quantity of water they deliver, is not that much bigger than yours. And I am sure that you would all eagerly pick up the $750,000 they dropped out of their pockets. I mean, it's there. Do you have it? I don't know. I doubt it in the aquifer that you're in. However, you do have a very high probability of THMs. Trihalomethanes, which is the addition of the chlorination material that goes to your volatile organics, creating the THMs. Those regulations are becoming more and more tighter. Just a fact of life. In one of Dan's observations was the procedures you're using within your plant. Yes, you have an operator that you hire. However, I beg to take any of you over there right now and say, show me the material safety data sheets from the chemicals that you have in this plant. They're not there. That we've seen. while you are not a municipality, and while things like OSHA have not been enforced in the smaller water systems, when you look at the budgets of OSHA and the number of new hires they have made over the last 2 years, and look at the number of reported cases of them now starting to come at utilities, you will be viable to be visited by OSHA. Your plant is nowhere near OSHA compliant. That's a fact. It's nowhere near.
How about the water eye washing thing?
Yeah, I found that from a recent client. Anybody ever seen one of these chemical eye wash? You know, the thing with the little handle on the side, it's got the 2 little spurts that come up like this. Okay? Not until long ago, I thought if I had one of those and it was hooked up to a water system, doing well, that I was compliant. Well, come to find out, and Jeff Price, I think you know this, OSHA has a little plastic template now they sit down in that eye wash. Right? Am I lying? If I'm lying, I'm dying. They sit it down there, when they hit that button, if the water doesn't go the same way that template shows, you're in violation. They are not playing jokes and games, people. One of the items in Dan's was how often should we require the acid treatment and cleaning of our wells? Well, from your current records, it appears like every 5 years, you're having to go in and chemically treat a well to clean up the screens, the well screens, from the iron that's precipitating on. So if you figure out that's about every 2.5 years you're going to do a well, right? Because you alternate between 2 wells. So that's an expense that's going to come. And that's if you look at your history. I will tell you this, as a rule, from the well drilling side of me, even though I was a good well driller, and still am, Maryland or Delaware 347, when I go in and treat a well, I'll bring it back. But it seems like the time in between treatments diminishes over time. So the next time I got to go back and treat it, it's a little sooner. And the next time it's a little sooner. So your 2.5 years averaging right now between treating a well, alternating, and what you got to figure in your budget, I think is going to come down. Can I prove that? Ladies and gentlemen, no, I can't. Can I tell you what my gut has told me, what history has told me? I can do that, and that's where I believe you're going to see that number start to come down. So probably every other year, you're going to end up with some kind of a treatment of a well. Backwash water, he addressed in item number 10 in his letter that he's also telling you that sewer discharge to the county is not an equitable resolution. And if the county knew about it, I can tell you right now, it is against their regulations. Dumping it to a ditch is against their regulations. But you're going to have to treat it at some point when somebody steps up. You have a 20,000 gallon, 28,000 gallons. I've seen the numbers referenced both ways. And you saw that book we found the other day when we were talking about the well. He pulled out a book and says, "Oh yeah, I got this on this building." I said, "Yeah, that looks familiar." It was my old drawings, where we just submitted all the wells. Okay, so it says a 20,000 gallon tank there. I probably got a good deal on about 28,000 or something when we put it in. But you're going to have a booster pump because your community has grown a little bit in size. That ground storage tank was never put in to be the only supply of water for you. It was put in because the residents at the time were running out of water in the summer. Bottom line, I had seen pressures in here go down to 10, 12 psi. Unless your pressure switches are sticking, I have never seen pressures in here at 80 psi. Okay, just never seen that. 30 to 50 is the normal pressure cycles that I remember seeing out there, and what seems to be noted in the notes that I have. You have made some good investments at the soft starts, and they help you. One of the major costs, though, that you will get a reduction on if you purchase water elsewhere versus supplying water is an electric. You know, electric is a substantial portion of what it costs to operate a plant. A lot of people forget about that. The operating of the wells, the pumps, the treatment equipment. You are currently as well feeding a polyphosphate. Part of feeding that polyphosphate is it helps any iron that leaks out of your system through the filters. Once it's all filtered, it locks it up in solution. So it keeps it clear. It'll also put a microscopic coating on your distribution lines. Now, I can remember circa 1982, between 80 and 85, put it that way, that there were many lines in Swann Keys that had about 1/4 of an inch of iron buildup on them. That was back when Wayne Murray was here. Anybody remember Wayne? Yeah. Okay. And Wayne had a real problem, and yeah, used to have to go down to the end of your distribution system because your system is not lubed. And by that I mean you've got a lot of straight, long runs that they don't connect at the other end, so the water goes down there and stays. And he was having to go down about once every 3 weeks. Open the valves up and let them run to get the iron out and try to flush that debris out of the lines. They started feeding the polyphosphates, and that helped. But it still took a while of blowing those lines off to get most of the debris removed. Okay. So you are feeding that currently. That feeding of that should go away once, if you decide to go on to artesian water. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Why wasn't anything ever brought up to us until artesian walked in the door?
Why wasn't one?
I don't know.
We never heard about it.
Well, actually, I won't argue. I don't know what you haven't known or hadn't known, but I will tell you this. When I was here more regularly, I used to come to your annual meeting. Oh, yeah.
Did you ever speak?
Yes, ma'am. As a matter of fact, if you'd like, I can go to the trunk of my car because I found them yesterday. I used to write your consumer confidence report. That's every report you used to get every year in the mail or in the billboard, telling you how the water system's done. I wrote them from like 1998 to 2005 or 7. It was my penmanship that we were reading. Shakespeare loves me a lot. But I don't know why you didn't know. I mean, because I used to be at the meetings. They had problems then, just like you got problems now. And people didn't want to spend the money then, like people don't want to today, I assume. Yes, sir.
So you're telling us that if we go to artesian, our water will be totally iron-free?
No, I'm not telling you it won't be totally iron-free. Will it be, do I believe, probably less than what you're seeing now in iron? Yes, I do.
Just less?
Less. I can't, I mean, there's a chart in the book
In the packet.
and what their output is. Hey, and the other thing you gotta recognize, you can go on to the Delaware Health Department website, DHSS, look under water systems, and I was gonna have it up here for you, but my computer and this screen started acting up. But you can go in there and actually look at the artesian water reports. The consumer, you can go to their website and read their consumer confidence report. Back over multiple years, you can go along with Delaware Health Department, look up artesian water, and it'll bring up all their water systems, and you can look at all those. You can also bring up Swann Keys and look at your water system on the Delaware Health Department. Yes, sir.
I'd like to address that question about why it was brought before. I think before, the boards weren't proactive, they were just dealing with problems that came up. I think this board is trying to prevent future problems. So this is why they invited different vendors to come in to see what they can do for our water supply.
Could do. I don't, like I say, I don't know.
Why we did the engineering study, we didn't know. We had to have an engineer, professional engineer, tell us, and yes, you paid $5,000 for it, but these reports will be in the office. Anybody wants to pick one up is welcome to it. And we've had it for 6 months. That's how we knew we finally couldn't address the rust in the tank and had to do something about it. So 6 tanks are brand new. New media inside of the tanks, but we haven't gone forward with anything else. I mean, it's
Can
in
I
the,
say also that much of this is discussed at the monthly board meeting, so if you come to a board meeting, you will know about all this. You will know about repairs that are being made on the water system.
One of the other items that's in Dan's report, he says that you should consider a bulk storage of salt. Now, this is one place that Dan and I disagree with each other. Bulk storage of salt, your capital investment is, I believe, going to far outweigh your operational return on the differential salt prices. Right now, you're buying salt in 50-pound, 100-pound bags. They come on a pallet. You can manhandle and load them into the plant. The bulk storage tank he's talking about, your price per pound of salt will go down. But, again, you gotta have some real ground to put the tank on. You gotta have to find the supplier that is bringing it to the area in bulk that can blow it in, and you really want a better quality salt. And that's why Dan is suggesting going to the salt storage tank, is he's saying you can get a better quality of salt. Maybe you can, maybe you can't, I'm not sure. But I do know by the time you put the tank in and that type of thing, from the few phone calls that I've made to some areas that haven't utilized those, you're looking again in the range of $350,000. So you're looking to recoup that money over a period of time, and the amount of salt that you use, you would be older than Abraham Lincoln, I think, before you were able to recoup it. Okay. So him and I just disagree on that, and I'm not saying he's wrong, it's just him and I disagree. One of the places that we do agree is on the well pump replacements. He's saying you should figure one every 10 years. I think if I go back and look at your records, you'll see every 5 to 7 is probably more realistic. Again, I'm very familiar with the well pumps that were in here. You were actually one of the first places on the East Coast that used a thing called Well Master back in the day, which is a special flexible hose because you had so much raw iron in your water. We were trying to find things that keep that iron from flaking up and building up in the pipe. The last well that with submersible pump that went in, and bear in mind, there's two different things. You got the well and the pump. They're both within the same confines of that well structure. The last pump that went in, they said actually in on a PVC pipe. And the thought is that they can keep that pipe cleaner. You currently do have 22 small bladder tanks. That's those little blue tanks, if you've ever been around your water treatment plant in there, that are all lined up. Some of those tanks, I am sure, need to be replaced. But nobody's checking. Which is a problem, because that gives you your storage. And the amount of tanks being placed in there, or that 22 tanks, directly correlates to the number of times we want your well pump to start and stop. When the well pump starts, we want it to run at least 2 minutes. That's by the manufacturer's request. And that's so that the motor will cool back down again. Okay, if you have too little storage, the pump starts, it stops, starts again, you never get the motor to cool down, and you end up short life in your motor. So you need at least those 22 according to the capacity that you have on your wells. And right now you don't have 22 that I believe are in operation. At least when I walked by the other day and wrapped on them very quickly, I think I found a couple that were water locked. And I didn't spend a lot of time because I had to climb over to reach stuff back there. Somebody had talked earlier about water rights and being able to sell the water. Well, I hate to pop your bubble. You can sell your water, but before you do that, you're going to have to go to the Public Service Commission, become a licensed sanctioned purveyor of water. That's state law. People say, yeah, but it's my water. Well, it is and it isn't. You know, there's 3 different types of water rights across the country. You have a riparian right, a prescriptive right, but here in Delaware, we have what we call appropriative rights, which means even though the water is on your ground, you walk on top of it, you love it, you nurture it, whatever, the state controls and owns it. They tell you how many gallons you can pump out. They will tell Artesian how many gallons they can pump out. It's Delaware law. So we have the appropriative rights system here. So it's not an unfettered war that can go on. And you just can't sell the water out because you're not a utility. A lot of people said, well, and I heard earlier, you know, why can't we get another utility to come in and take our system over? Well, there's a thing in the state of Delaware called Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity. How many people here have Delaware Electric Co-op for their power company? Right? You all do. You know why that is? Because Delaware Electric Co-op has a Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity for this area. Another purveyor can't come in and take over all their system. The Public Service Commission has helped do that because they recognize utility companies who have a monopoly are going to invest money in their infrastructure. And they don't want the money that you've invested as a member of that infrastructure for somebody else to come in and take advantage of it. So the Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity is a designated area on a map that says you are a customer of this utility company. You know, Public Service Commission is a good thing because it does regulate that utility company. You know, John was saying that, you know, when they go in for, he kept using the word rate case. That's really, it is a long hearing process where you, the public, does have an opportunity to go voice your opinion. I'm guesstimating, you know, they've got between 7, let's call it 5,000 to 10,000 commercial customers that you would be in the same rate base. So when they go in for a rate increase, all 5,000 to 7,000 or 7,000 to 10,000, however many that is in that category, get the opportunity to go before the Public Service Commission and say, hey, they gave us bad service. We don't think they deserve a rate increase. It is not an over and done process. These things go on 6 months, 2 years, 3 years that they're hearing information. So you definitely have a feedback. The question is, do you want to be in the water business? Somebody said, well, we need to get an operator in here that does, our plant does it well. That's good. Are you willing to pay the operator? You know, if you're gonna hire a contract.
What's a water operator receive? Will they work part-time?
Sure, you can find the water operators that work part-time, and that's exactly what you're gonna get at part-time. You know, if you want an operator here, and it's gonna have to be here because you're feeding chlorine, he's gonna have to be here at least 5 days a week. And probably be on call for 7. How many people here at this age group want to do that? Guess what? Us water operators don't either. And the guys who are out here every day doing in the water business, you know, what do they make? And I teach a class for base level water operations where guys have to take the class before they go take their state exam. Number one question is, how much could I make? I'm going to tell you, I have met operators that make $35,000 a year. I have met operators that make $150,000 a year. Is how good an operator do you want? Down in this area, to pay an operator to work 5 days a week, it is not abnormal to be in the high 30s to mid 40s plus benefits.
Plus benefits.
Plus benefits. I will tell you right now, I have 3 municipal clients who are looking for water operators. Can't find them.
Stop you for 1 second. George, anybody still interested in the tour? How long are they gonna be over there for the tour? So Kevin, I don't know how much longer.
I'll wrap it up anytime you like.
Just in case anybody, I'm telling you, we went on the tour, all of us. It's something to see. It's different.
Thank you, everybody.
I'm sorry, Kevin.
So it's the question is whether you want to be in there. So you're gonna first have to hire the operator. And now you got the liability issues. And that's an issue that I think if I were you, I would have to really ponder on strongly. Today's society has become lawsuit happy. If someone gets sick, can they blame the water system? Yes. The number of cases, one of the other things I forgot to tell you earlier, I do consulting service at the request of attorneys to sit there in the courtroom and feed them notes of the right questions to ask. But one of the common things we're starting to see up here is the Legionnaire's disease, where you have standing water in the tank, i.e. your ground storage tank that's not being circulated and used. The bacteria gets in there, we have a problem. Now, if somebody gets sick here, do you think they could enter a lawsuit against you? And are you willing to stand that gap and pay the insurance premiums and have the coverage? It's a decision you gotta make.
What's the last case of Legionnaires in this area?
3 months ago,
Really? Where was it?
Ocean City.
And where? What building?
I can look that up for you. Right back
Comes
to you.
off the air conditioning.
Well, wait a minute. Legionnaires was first brought up in Ocean City, but then it,
You Philadelphia, you're wrong.
but,
That's in the Legionnaires.
But that comes over.
wait a minute.
Mostly
Excuse me,
air
sir.
conditioning.
You said in this area, I don't consider Philly this area.
It started in Ocean City.
No, it was discovered in Ocean City in air conditioning units.
Yeah, they come
However, it was discovered, let me finish. It was discovered in the air conditioning units in Ocean City. However, they have now found in some ground storage tanks, because your super tall high rises have storage tanks on as well for pressure equalization.
Well, those towers.
And they have found there. 3 months ago, wait a minute, I'm not gonna argue with you back there.
I think you're an alarmist. That's what I think you're doing. You're being an alarmist.
Then you can pay for the lawsuit, go right ahead, no problem. Sign your name. You're out of order.
You said you don't have a vote in this?
No, sir, I don't.
Worked with Marquez for 2 years. To me, it sounds like you got a vote.
Well, let me ask you a question, sir. I worked for Artesian in 2009, 2009 to 2011.
You got no bias.
No, I don't, because I also
Sound
have,
that way.
I also do
I think
work,
you're scaring the old folks in here. All right, that's what I think you're doing.
okay? I also do work, have done work for hybrid utilities.
That's enough. What happened, not abuse this gentleman, but he nice enough to come to that preventive maintenance plan, instead of somebody like you being an alarmist.
You're being rude, you don't have to.
Actually, quite honestly, I wish you wouldn't sell, in a sense. Because,
There you go.
you gotta do it, because if you don't sell, I'm gonna go to your board and say, gentlemen, you need to have an operator managing your system that overlooks your people.
There you go. That's what you need.
Okay, that's fine, but I don't have a bone in your hunt, because I really don't care whether you sell or don't sell. I just want to give you the facts of things that are out there. Okay. Yeah, the cost of maintenance, Ted has talked about it, is at $30,000 to $50,000 a year. I think the water plant, that is probably good for your current condition. It does not address any of the new regulations that are coming forward. And there are regulations coming forward, some of which I have been involved with, have knowledge of, some of which I have not.
So that's an average 30 to 50?
That's, your engineer has recommended 30 to 50,000
That's a reserve, they'll be in the reserve
for the water plant facility reserves. That's not reserves for other things, that's just
If
invested
a
in the water
well, if a
plant.
well is good for
2.5, well, him and I disagree, so I'm saying his number's a little low.
2.5 to 3 years, okay, the well, we spent $34,000 doing the last well. So they're saying that 30 to 50, a part of that money's being put aside, so you can do it when the time comes, instead of coming out and panicking.
Well, I mean, that's just a real fundamental question, like we've been spending like just say, $120,000 per year, right?
Oh, yeah, on average.
And is that pretty much gonna stay the same?
No, if you notice, it goes up and down. If, I was looking at 2011, 12.
Right.
That's the last time I remember, just as a resident sitting in the audience, when we had to redo the wells before. And we also changed around the inside of the plant. Kevin pointed out a lot of changes since it was first put in. Then around 2 years later, well number 2 went up. Yes, number 2 went up. And you notice it went up that year because we had to put a new well in, and they clean it, they acid wash it, and clean the screen at the bottom. Then you notice it went down to 70s, right? Well, that was a good year. This year should be a good year, but we're not accomplishing what we've been directed to do. In other words,
That's the number I'm trying to get at, what do you think that real number is?
Without making new changes for a salt tank,
Right.
without addressing your backwash water issue, okay? Because those are to be major capitals. I would, if it was my company, my water company, I would be setting aside between 75, probably 75,000 a year.
I have nothing in this year's budget for water except general maintenance, general maintenance. You know, you needed a new valve, or you needed these pipes split in front of Butch. Those pipes actually split because of age, where the threads are. I mean, but that's the type of thing we run, and we won't see it now. We see it in the summer, okay? And the other thing is, right now, we got the 6 new tanks. We can't explain why there's water on the floor.
George, I think that really would help the community, if we could just get a certified estimate. This is about what they think it's gonna cost.
The problem with that is, nobody's gonna do what Dave could do there, and you say it's gonna be 30 to 50, we think. Because, how do you know how much your car is gonna cost you next year for maintenance? But we do know this, and I think we can agree on this, without me being in Marcus, that the longer you own your car, the chances are you're gonna pay more in maintenance. Do you agree with that? Okay. Same thing's true with water plants.
We've been trying to get ahead of it.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, Butch, speak, I'm telling you, it's on next to impossible. Bill and I spent the whole summer. My boat left the dock twice, when I put it in and when I took it out. Butch, I mean, everyday maintenance, every day.
Yeah, it's something different every day. I mean, you just, maintenance is a funny thing. You can't say, well, I'm gonna be going for an hour fixing that, because you never know what you're gonna come into. You never know what kind of problems.
Read the budget letter, please. I spent a lot of time, and the treasurer helped me, and Bill and others. I tried to put as honest as I could in that budget letter, because I know you don't want to pay the $100. I don't want to pay the $100. But when 42 of the 60's already dedicated to something else, and if the budget doesn't pass, well, we stop doing things. You have operating expenses and reserve expenses, and they're all going to go nuts if I keep going on like this.
One of the other things that he had in his write-up, or I'm sorry, questions which came in from you today that were down here, is about a backup supply. What do we do for a backup supply? Well, your 20,000 gallon tank, that's going to last you 4 or 5 hours.
Right.
So if something is out more than that, chances are it's probably an electrical issue. So then you get to look at a backup generator. That's one option. Have a backup generator for your 2 wells. That would take care of it. And I will tell you this, national statistics, 75% of all problems we have with water systems in the water treatment plants and the wells and pumps is electrical. Okay? Backup generator, for your size facility, I would figure on $300 and some thousand to put that rascal in. You have, why not get other prices from other utilities? We talked about that, the certificate of public convenience and necessity. Okay, now you get other operators to come in to operate the system. Some of those out there. Other community, there's only 1 meter. I said they have between 5 and 10,000, I'm gonna say 7,000 other people like you. Here are some of those places. Hospitals, Christiana Care, those type. So apartment complexes up north. So you'll be in the same base rate as Christiana Care. Do you think Christiana Care has a voice with the boys in the Public Service Commission? Yeah, I do. I mean, let's be honest, in this political world, they got some clout. So, how and why are they giving us $500,000? That's some lady's question over here. You would agree, yes. Here's my opinion. I have no hard number to back it up. But, walk outside today and look around. This area, or go on Google Earth, look at the area surrounding you. There is limited area to be able to put in new wells. Okay? I sat on the Sussex County Wellhead Protection Committee when the regulations were drawn for that. The state of Delaware has new wellhead regulations that they are trying to implement. So areas that used to be viable with the offsets that the state is now going to be asking for, there's going to be less and less areas that you can actually put a well in. So what John was saying to you was probably very true. They are looking for backup redundancy because the available areas that they can put wells in is dropping rapidly. That's what they're buying. Yeah, they're buying the equipment, some, but they're buying a piece of a rock for future. Someplace that they can put a well in or have a water supply. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if I was a farmer, I gotta look where I'm gonna get farmland, right? They're in the water business, they gotta look where they can get water ground. Yes, ma'am.
Are they a monopoly?
Are they a monopoly? Yes and no. They are a monopoly in the areas that they control. In other words, in their certificate of public convenience and necessity.
There's no other way for us to go?
Not with a public water purveyor to bring water from the outside into you. No. Actually, I should say it. Yes. A public water purveyor could, from outside of their CPCN, can pipe water to you.
So we're Ocean City.
Ocean City is within Ocean City, and I think if you check the town of Ocean City, because I did work for them, you'll find their charter says that they can't sell water outside of their city limits without an extreme tariff. White Marlin Wall, remember that on 50? I put the water system in there initially before Ocean City would bring it out to them because they didn't want to have to pay the tariff. Ocean City, I think, since has annexed that area in, so now they can supply water. Okay? But yeah, somebody could pipe across, but you're not big enough. 660 or 606 lots. You're just not big enough for somebody to pipe any great length. Yes, sir.
So what somebody said earlier is, I'm sure that's in their plans to take our wells and pump water over to their treatment centers and pump it back to us.
I'm sure it will be, yes. But they're not buying your well for your well. They're buying your well for the rights of the water to be able to eventually put another well there if they have to. And the other thing to bear in mind.
They will.
No,
They
They'll
will.
also take care of the trees.
about 30 to 50 years, 60 years, I don't know when, but they will. Other thing to bear in mind, Artesian Water is a publicly traded company. Okay? No, it does. But by that, I will tell you that the rules and regulations they play by are above board. Because too many people are looking at their corporate dealings. They've got no reason to jeopardize all their other clients for 600. I'm just being honest, brutally honest with you. So they're a public regulated utility. They have the Public Service Commission monitoring them. And the PSC does take unkind actions against utility purveyors who don't live up to what they said they're going to do. Yes, ma'am.
This might be for the board more, but I don't understand this. This analysis of the light cycle, that's a report that's, we don't have yet. Is that a report that's gonna give a synopsis of the water treatment and how, what needs to be done with it? Because if that's true, aren't you asking us to vote yes or no before we read that report?
I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, we have the engineer's report, but that's 7 months, 8 months old now. We've already begun trying to meet the standards of what the engineer recommended.
Well, in the beginning, you said that, somebody, I wrote it down, and said it was in process, that we didn't have. The reserve study.
Oh, the reserve study, totally different. That's a study of the aging of all the fixed assets. And what it is, and David's gone now, it's very complicated. Wilma's been working on it for weeks with her committee. The state of Delaware, under the Qualia 85-something, says that you will have a reserve study and you will always be in a position where you could meet an emergency. All right? We are not totally controlled by DeQuoya. We do have elements. One of the elements is the requirement to have a reserve. It says every 5 years you'll have, or every 10 years you'll have a full reserve study, and every 5 years you'll have an update of the first. We are in the midst of a brand new reserve study. Everything in Swann Keys that is commonly owned will be in that study, and it will tell us by year the monies that should be going into those particular items, like a road. A road has a 20-year lifespan, I think, it may be 30. But anyway, a road has a lifespan. Just divide the number of years and the cost of a road, that's where you start. But every year you do that, you're supposed to be putting that money in a separate account to take care of it 20 years down the road. We have not done that. We have $167,000 in our reserve account. If we're not fully funded, which we will not be, everybody trust me, we still need, per the accountant, about $300,000 to $350,000 in that reserve account, and it just sits there. You can use the interest, but it sits there. I mean, guys, I have no idea how you're going to get that money.
And ma'am, let me speak on that. We have never had a reserve study on the water building. This is brand new now. So he is evaluating and assessing those figures for us. It will be presented to you, but it hasn't come through
He
yet.
told me that inflation alone is going to take the $600,000 figure that everybody always talks about to $1 million. He told me in a 10-year span, the inflation is going to take it to $1 million. Now, let's be serious. We're never going to have $1 million in that account. But the thing is, I've negotiated, I've talked to the accountants, I talked to the gentleman who handles our election, and we're talking about real dollars. We probably need about $300,000 in there. If catastrophic emergency happened here, we'd be able to fix it for $300,000. You know what I mean? The whole water building exploded. All right, we'd have to get emergency water. $300,000 would give us water of some nature. That's what I'm looking. Remember this whole thing. What we were looking for in the very beginning. Can you run a fire hose from that tank to our tank, so we can feed water to people? Man, it just,
It just mushroomed into this.
that's where we are today.
Looking out for you.
That's right.
In regards to reserve fund, and I will come back to you.
Okay.
I would, to the board, I want to tell you, the $5,000 a year, I would put probably $7,500 to $10,000 in per year for your distribution system.
You mean the 30 to 50?
I'm saying an additional $7,500 to $10,000 a year for distribution system maintenance. Just,
Needless to tell you, I work on the budget just about every day.
and the reason being, if you have a major break, you're at or near sea level. I do a lot of dewatering work where we got to dry the ground up in order to put a new main in. My dewatering's not only mine. The average cost of dewatering is $2,000 a day. Plus additional installation, about $100 per point, or something, 50 to 60 points. So, Yes, but I had this young man up here, I promised you.
Do you think $500,000 is enough money to purchase our system? To me, $500,000 is nothing today.
If 500,000 is nothing today, I agree with you. However, bear in mind, they have to be able to justify that number to the Public Service Commission. Okay, so it's not like a number they pulled out of the air and said, yep, this is what it is. I'm gonna tell you as sure as I'm standing here, they have to be able to justify that when the time comes to the Public Service Commission. The other thing, if you understood what he said, it's really not 500,000 you're paying. It's 615,000.
But still, even that's not a lot.
No, it's not. But, like I say, PSC is gonna be looking at it.
I understand.
Yeah, it's like, okay, boys, how did you come up with this number? And they're gonna have to come up with it. You know, it's not that they said, well, we're gonna give them really, it's only worth 200,000, but we like Kevin Burdette, so we're gonna pay out his pocket by 350,000. I mean, they're gonna show all the numbers.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Artesian's only gonna be responsible for giving us water. We're still gonna be responsible for all our pipes and everything in the.
Okay,
okay. As
I
you are
asked that
today.
question, Butch, how many times have we repaired the piping system in 2 years? How many times have we repaired it?
About 3 times.
Everything else has been from your house to our valve, not our problem. Our problem is the main line. You remember when the lawn mowing people ran over the end of Mallard and broke out all the valves, just took both those pipes right out? Last year, a renter on Swann, same thing, he came home drunk, and he ran over the pipe, destroyed it. They're the only times we've had to fix distribution. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'm just telling you, we fixed too. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But guess what? You are today too.
But most of the responsibility's on the homeowners, because it's from our valve to the home.
Yes, ma'am.
Another frightening situation, we flood each year. We're flooding worse and worse. If our water building floods, what happens?
If it floods, you'll need to go into emergency operation mode, you've got to set up sandbags around it. We've done that, by the way, one other time. Hazel came through, not Hazel, what was the storm in,
Sandy.
Sandy? No, it was before Sandy. Sandy was in Isabel. That building was sandbagged at one time. I remember that. Wayne had put it back when Wayne was here. We had sandbagged up around the building, and we actually sandbagged up inside the building around the motor control center. We used salt bags because that's what he had a lot of. What was that, ma'am? Did you have another question? I'm sorry. Okay.
I got a question for you.
Kevin?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate everybody's concern about this, and I know everybody's feeling we're giving up an asset that we had. But you gotta look beyond that. 500,000 is wonderful, but let's look beyond that. What money aren't we gonna be peeing down the hole to keep that building going? It's a no-brainer to me. Maybe I'm stupid, I don't know, but I know I hear where you're coming from. You're gonna end up getting the same water anyhow, as they just said. They might be pumping our water over their tank back to us. So don't say quality water is going to be any different. The difference is going to be eliminating this drain that we keep dumping stuff into over in this building.
Well, I disagree with you, first of all. There is going to be a quality difference.
Well, I was trying to keep that on a level without.
There's going to be a quality
I wasn't talking up artisan at this point. I'm just saying, the fact is you're worried about your quality of water. It's not going to be any worse for darn sure. You all been through that plan, I hope. If you haven't, you need to make a trip over there. These guys have got a handle on it. Enough said, I'm sorry. As a board member, I shouldn't be running my mouth.
Would anybody else on the board like to speak?
One of the things, Artesian does add fluoride to the water, which you're currently not doing. I'm not sure I mentioned that. They do fluoridate for water, which supposedly tends to stay up good for us.
I'd also like to say that part of this engineering study that we're having to tell us how much we need in our reserve, the swimming pool has never been in part of that And the water treatment plant has never been part of that study. That's where a lot of money is gonna be involved in that reserve study to repair whatever needs to be repaired in there, or whatever repairs need to be done at the pool. So that's other things that are going in the reserve study that have never been in there before.
The reserve study covers a 30-year period. The pool was brand new, so now it's in the study, or will be in the study.
No other questions you all have for me? Well, yes, sir.
Personally, I feel a lot better that you're saying artesian is regulated, and we really don't have a choice of where to go. To me, I think it's just like I pay for Baltimore City water where I live now up there. And it's the same difference. You're gonna have to pay for that water. I mean, but they are regulated, so they can't just zap it to us like a lot of people have been talking, like you could go out and shop for any of this. That's not the deal. So I feel better about that personally. And secondly, can we take the money that we make from artesian, if they did buy our equipment, and put that aside for our supplies?
That was our discussion at the budget meeting. If we had that kind of money, if we had it, maybe we should start fixing pipes and go to a street and say, we're gonna do 20 houses and dig it up and look to see what's under the ground. We
Right.
don't know.
Right.
We don't, I can tell you it's 6 inches across the street and it's 3 inches coming across the street, but I can't tell you where 2 inches starts.
Right.
And then, but there was a lot of, Butch and I especially, a lot of discussion.
One other thing, if we have a real severe winter, and we lose dozens of houses, lose their mains, and all that water's pumping, it just costs us chemicals and electric before. Now we're gonna be paying through that meter for all this. We need to police that.
Bill, Butch and I, last year, you remember how cold it was and everything?
Oh, yeah.
We turned them off. We turned about 17 of them off because people hadn't winterized. But as soon as we turned it off, it was, that wasn't a problem because it's
Right.
not going to the.
I know you made reports of how much more water was being done for everybody to look out for water running,
That wasn't answered earlier. You don't go through your packages